Hi, welcome back. Chapter 15. I'm home. When the world shut down because of the COVID-19 virus, we were in the 3-month new baby cocoon. Fearing for our son's lung safety and our new infant, we isolated. When my oldest sister's family went on road trips to see the country, my new family thrived in our home. And unlike many families, my family was fairly unaffected by the world shutting down. Our family already stayed home on a regular basis. My husband went back to work for 1 day before he was told to work from home. It was as if his paternity leave had never ended. Our son's room was now where his office used to be. The computer and office were moved to the back of the basement. If my husband had a meeting and needed privacy, the kids would just go play upstairs. And we were blessed that my husband could work from the basement while the kids played at the same time on a regular basis. Motherhood is naturally isolating, and I was a mother of two little ones. I didn't need COVID-19 to make me feel trapped. Being a mother made me feel trapped. Being a mother is hard enough when the mother has agreed and willingly chosen to create another human. Going into the situation knowing it was my choice stopped me from resenting my own children. I knew that if I got pregnant as a teenager, my plan was not to keep it. I refused to bring a child into the world until I was ready. If a woman isn't ready for a child, it only hurts the child to force the woman to be a mother. Children born into a struggling home will witness nothing but suffering. In a conversation with my sister once my life was stabilized, I was informed that my oldest sister and her husband had a conversation years ago about adopting my possible future child. They had assumed that I would get pregnant out of marriage and not be able to handle the situation for myself. They assumed that they would be helping me. No one else was going to be making that choice for me. The woman loses control of her body as cells rearrange inside of her. A child that is unwanted and possibly resented for all the changes in the mother's life will not have a happy childhood. The child, with no choice or control, is at the mercy of another human. Lucky children get parents that can provide physical and emotional needs. Children that get stable lives with parents focused on loving them and accepting their choices and can provide stable food and shelter are becoming less common. During both pregnancies, my father called me regularly to check on me. Our relationship was familiar, but I kept him at a distance. He had done nothing to me as an adult for me to push him away, and I kept him away so that there was no way he could hurt me or my children. I forgave, but I had not forgotten. Having seen my father with my nieces and nephews, I allowed him to see my children. He was gentle, and the infants usually fell asleep soundly on his large pillow of a belly. Conversations were kept light, but talking wasn't difficult when he came to visit alone. My father's father was hospitalized with cancer. My concern was for the welfare of my grandmother. My husband, or her husband, of over 50 years was near the end. My heart went out to her as I thought about myself in the future. I would hope that my granddaughter would be comforting, so I comforted my grandmother. I started putting in small efforts towards the side of the family I had separated myself from. My husband's parents had started the habit of showing up without calling first. Boundaries had to be established firmly. I had to learn their language of love in order to appreciate who they are. Once I understood their love language, my frustrations faded away. I was able to accept their gifts, including large amounts of untasty food, if I knew I would never eat it. My husband told me that I taught him everything he knows about communication and emotions. His family did not grow up speaking about their emotions or saying, I love you. Showing their love was done by providing for life. Providing a beautiful home and good food was how his parents showed that they had love. I had to learn how to accept my in law's love. Being independent had made me stubborn and willful. Learning how to be part of a large family was an adjustment to me. I had to learn their language while they learned mine. I had learned that they loved my children more than themselves. The new grandparents showered gifts onto their grandchildren. Even when we didn't agree, I knew what they did was because they were trying to show us their love. When their grandchildren started running around and giving hugs and saying, I love you, the pattern of behavior rubbed off on the grandparents. Having grandchildren showed my husband's parents new ways to love. And without paternity leave and having my husband with me, motherhood would have broken me beyond repair. Without my husband's support on an hourly basis, I could not have taken care of an infant and a child. After giving birth to my son, my medication levels needed to be adjusted. My dosage went up so I could function, and while being pregnant with my daughter, I attempted to lower my dosage to reduce withdrawal symptoms for my infant after her birth. With lowered medication, I was unable to stop crying. I hated pregnancy even more, and I could not pull myself out of the depression or bed. Being concerned, my husband knew I needed to go back up on my medication to be stable again, and I could not be a mother alone. It was wonderful when the kids and I were playing outside because I could ask my husband to come outside and watch the kids as I went to the bathroom quickly. If my husband had not been able to work from home, I would have had to wrangle the little kids inside with me. Having him home all the time made me happy. Without his support every day, I would have struggled severely to be a good mom. Because my children had a father that was active in their lives, they are happy. Every time my husband makes the kids laugh, I love him that much more. Every day, I love him more. He makes me happy. I didn't like motherhood, but I still loved my life. The children and their toys began to take over every room of the house. There were a few toys from childhood that I thought to save. Many toys I loved as a child, I let go of with the determination that I didn't need it for my child later in life because there would be no such child. I allowed myself to save one container's worth of mementos and one container's worth of toys. I had the 1996 Olympic Barbie sets and every Kelly doll I could find. I kept the original crib and toilet with the tiny little paper roll. And a mystery of my life is what happened to my littlest pet shops collection. No one in the family has a memory of where those beloved toys went. I kept one container of stuffed animals, and I had two dolls with great sentimental value, along with animals like a Kermit the Frog. My adopted father had a tradition of giving me and my sisters Beanie Babies. He had a large collection himself, and he is the reason my children get to play with so many Beanie Babies. When my children were old enough, I brought out the little Beanie Babies from my past. I wrote to my adopted father to share with him that his gifts were bringing more joy to even more children. Even though we hadn't seen each other since my wedding, I was still thankful for what he had given me. Having a safe home for my children to grow was a gift I never thought I could give. My husband and I created an environment where our children would never fear being homeless. Our children would never fear they won't have food or clothes. Our children had a stable home filled with love and acceptance, even though the world was on lockdown. My children can never question if I love them. I have created picture albums for each child detailing their growth from month to month and year to year. Each child has a treasure box of items that are special for them to keep forever. Using foam molding, we have created handprints and footprints for both children to observe their growth as humans. And when they are older and look back, it will be clear the efforts I have taken to help them grow and thrive. When they have a Christmas tree of their own, they will have a collection of special ornaments just like my mom did for me. They may not be aware of all of the efforts I have done in their lives for years to come. They might never understand my struggles as a mother, but they will always understand that I loved them the best I knew how. And our neighborhood was the only world my children would see during COVID. If the sun was shining, we were outside playing. All dogs that walked on the sidewalk surrounding our home were noticed. Stranger danger and animal safety was learned quickly. I knew that if we were going to be playing outside on a regular basis, my children needed to know I was serious about my expectations of their behavior and the rules outside. If my children disobeyed, we went inside. At an early age, I taught them that there are consequences to all actions, big or small. While playing outside in the dirt, it's easy to learn the neighbors' dog walking routines. Knowing the neighbors is important to me. If my children or I need help, it is my neighbors that I call in an emergency until my family can arrive. It is my neighbors that encourage my creativity in the garden. The garden has given me a social life and a reason to be outside in my environment. After children, getting to know the neighbors got a lot easier because of the number of little ones in the neighborhood. I worked very hard as a mother to nurture relationships with those around us. After being in our home for 8 years, we discovered by chance that my neighbor had known my mother as a child. My neighbor had spent more time with my grandfather than I had. And because as a child, my neighbor went to the same Christian summer camp that my family helped establish. The world is so large, yet so small. Emotional intelligence and communication are valued in our house. I wait for the day when I can tell my son, or I waited for the day when my son could tell me with words what his needs were. He was at the age where most kids were babbling and making consistent sounds. My son made noises, but it was more caveman than words. When we were all frustrated because of the difficulty we were having communicating, yeah, sign language was helping a little, but not enough. When my son had a breakdown in a store because I could not understand what he wanted, I realized that we needed help. The state was very helpful and gave me a lot of information. After all the evaluations, it was decided that my son needed help for verbal communication. We had a plan to get my son help, but the COVID-19 virus was still raging and making in person services impossible. As I held my infant daughter in my arms, I held the phone to my ear and listened to ways that I could be the in person support for my son's verbal difficulties. My husband was working, so I was trying to balance too much. Losing yourself is easy. I went from being an independent social woman, being bored was not something I did often. I always had a list of things I wanted to get done, and for over 10 years I had worked retail. I took my retail training home with me. Our house was a full stocked pantry at all times. Every bathroom has its own inventory. I took the lessons my mom gave me on how to set up a house for kids. I made sure that every child had their own space they could run to when they were upset. My room was my safe space, so my children would get the same. To get through the day, I mentally blocked the day into 3 shifts: morning, afternoon, evening. One day at a time is how I lived life. I used my manager skills to keep the house moving and feel like I was maintaining control. I was ridiculously happy the day we moved in and I got to unpack my container of towels and supplies into a real closet. I look at the lessons my mom showed me about keeping supplies available for my family. Having a set routine and supplies available before children arrived helped me immensely to feel prepared for motherhood. My husband supplied everything we needed without hesitation and with love. My husband and I both have regular chores that we do. He brings the full dirty laundry baskets down when I move them into the hallways. My husband is responsible for unloading the clean dishes in the morning before he starts work. I fold the laundry, but he hangs the shirts. The children have started to enjoy choosing where they put their own clothes in their closets. And if my children will dress themselves, they can decide where they want to find their clothes. The children help put dishes in the sink, and my job is to play Tetris to fit in as many dishes into the dishwasher to be cleaned as possible, as clean as possible. I have a list of chores I do before bed, and to make sure when I wake up and come down to a clean kitchen in the morning, that way I don't get overwhelmed. My husband and I created a routine and a rhythm that we have to keep each other and the house going. I keep tissue boxes and paper towels stocked and close, so everyone knows where to find a new box and replace the empty tissue box. Fix that mistake. All right. Getting sick would make my depression worse. Getting sick, hence all the tissue boxes, meant at least a month of extra crabby baby or being sick myself. If one person in the family gets sick, everyone suffers. My husband was the reason I was able to be stable. When I got overwhelmed or I could not give the kids what they needed, he would swoop in so I could step out. I had been very clear since the beginning of our relationship how I felt about kids. I had taken many psychology classes, so I understood their brain and physical development. I remembered a lot of being a child myself. I understood what the child is going through in my memory, but my adult brain feels differently. It became a battle with myself every day not to get annoyed with my children just for being a child. Every day that passed, every growth spurt they had, I was that much happier. The older my children got, the happier my days became. I loved my children, but I hated being a mother. I hated how my emotions were tied to theirs. I didn't want to cry anymore. I stopped watching any movies or television that made me cry. I did not need help crying. I needed help laughing. My favorite things to watch were kids' movies from my childhood. I had been listening to the Hamilton soundtrack on repeat while both of my children were in the womb, and my children have not gone a day in their life without hearing a song created by Alan Menken or Lin-Manuel Miranda. And while trapped in the house with children, music helped me heal. As I cooked and I cleaned, my children played and we listened to the same music. Music helped remind me that I can feel happy. Movies were used as cuddle time, and I enjoyed children's movies before I had kids. So when my daughter repeated my history and fell in love with Tangled and The Little Mermaid, my husband commented that he was glad we had a girl because, and I quote, I was enjoying the crap out of it. Growing up on Disney made me happy. I still loved the same movies 30 years later. And I watched Inside Out before children, thought it was okay. I rewatched Inside Out with my children years later, and I was in tears at the end. Being a mother helped me interpret movies as I had seen before in a totally new lens. My children have watched Disney their whole lives, and I can teach any life lesson I want to impart on my kids using Disney characters as examples. I can trace the evolution of women's rights and history using Disney princesses. The evolution of emotional intelligence grows in main male characters like Kristoff. My son wasn't interested in princesses, but Lightning McQueen caught his eye. Speech was difficult, but it was Lightning McQueen's name that I understood. My son's first word was some version of Lightning McQueen. And preschool was now an option. In person classes had returned, so my son was enrolled for speech therapy at preschool 5 days a week. The school offered a bus for transportation, but I was not going to put a child that could not communicate on a bus without me. I had nightmares that my son was at school crying and needed me, but I couldn't reach him. And being a powerless mother is a horrible feeling. In a fear of a repeat from the past, every morning before school I was hyper aware of my son's emotions. We created a different morning environment and routine than I had as a child. On the days that my son struggled to go to school, I cried just as much as he did. When he struggled, I did my best to listen to his fears. I remembered being the child that was desperate to stay home. I remember the desperation in my bones, and I can hear it in my son's voice. My husband would need to take over because I would become too emotional. And a school can change a child's life. I drove my son to school every morning. Getting my son into the car was usually easy. We picked out the music that he wanted to listen to, and we made a game of trying to find hawks and nests in the trees. Together we celebrated if we got to see a train on the tracks of our car going under on the way to school. On the way to school, I tried my best to distract him and keep his energy high, but not all days in the car went happily. On the days that I couldn't convince my son that going to school was a good idea, I had the teachers to back me up. I had the principals and the teachers every day to help me get my son out of the car. I will never stop being thankful for every teacher, principal, and caretakers of schools. The school we had the privilege to attend sparked my son's love for knowledge and encouraged his curiosity. When our family struggled with our son's speech, the work they did made our family better. Sitting at our dinner table, my husband was going through speech flashcards the school had sent home for us. And while feeding my daughter, we all sat together and witnessed the moment my son's verbal skills were unlocked. It was amazing to see the light bulb moment when the sounds he was saying connected with the meaning in his brain. We were finally going to be able to communicate on new levels. Our life got better because we could communicate with our son and learn his needs better. We were able to put words to his emotions. Once we had the names for his emotions, the emotional roller coaster outbursts were easier to control and understand. And sickness was nothing new. A month after my son was born, we both got boogers. Trying to help an infant deal with boogers is not fun and involved a lot of crying. So when my 3-year-old was sick and struggling to breathe, we went to the hospital again. The hospital admitted our son for RSV and an asthma attack. His oxygen was dangerously low and he needed help immediately. Extremely sticky adhesive tape was applied for his IV, attached to his wrist and traveling up his arm. The same sticky tape was across his cheeks to keep the medication tube in place near his nose. Cords and beeps didn't even bother my son because he was too sick to fight. At the same hospital my son was born, I slept on the couch as my son received medications. COVID-19 was an extreme risk factor, so I had to wear a mask and a gown while in the room. I was able to drive home while my husband stayed with our son, and he was never left alone. At home, my in-laws watched our daughter. Missing her brother, but enjoying the attention more, our daughter was unfazed. I would spend time with her and repack, trying to hide the fear and pain. I would cry in the shower. I would not cry in front of my son. I had to be strong for him, or he would mimic my fear. I let myself feel my emotions while I was at home. And at the hospital, my focus was my son. I packed boots and I packed books and his cars so he could play while he laid in bed. And slowly his energy got better and the bed started to be confining. Sleep was difficult for him with cords attached to him. Wiggling and trying to get comfortable, many times he got tangled, so the nurses or I would have to untangle a sleeping child. During a break from the hospital at home, I realized that our daughter was showing similar signs that our sons, similar symptoms our son had. Trying to avoid another hospitalization, I take my daughter to the doctor to get her medication. And leaving the hospital was traumatic. We were all ready to go home, but the needles and tape still needed to be removed. My emotions were already fragile, so I had to walk away as the tape was removed. I tried to block out the sounds of his screams. My husband had to help hold him down. Well, sorry. Hold him down while the adhesive was ripped off his sensitive skin. His cries hurt my heart. Being a mother hurt so badly because his pain was mine. When my son came home, his grandparents were waiting for him. It was beautiful to watch my son walk in and find comfort with his grandparents. My son was able to say, "They hurt me," as he cried. I unpacked the car as I heard him going through his emotional decompression. I was relieved that my son had the opportunity to talk with someone other than me. As my son cried, I laid in the open trunk of our SUV crying. Not wanting to go inside and hear my son crying, I waited outside until my husband arrived home. He held me as I cried, Brooke. Trying to get back to normal was overwhelming. I had not been home for days, so the house chores were behind and our routine was broken. I needed to regain control of the house again. So, using my management background, I took inventory of what needed to get and what I needed to get and what I needed to do. Excuse me. Sorry. All right. Oh. I was completely overwhelmed with the mess and chores. Children made regaining control impossible. My daughter was now sick, very sick. The medication we had given her came back up twice as vomit. After being vomited on and my second shower, I was beyond broken and shattered. We needed help. My husband was taking care of our son and doing his best to support me, but we were both overwhelmed. My kindergarten best friend was pregnant, so I would not allow her near my home. My second maid of honor saved the day. Friends bond over the strangest things. Being out of touch for years did not stop my second best friend and I from picking up where we left off as kids. Complaining about the impossible exterior and interior architectural designs of Rapunzel's tower in Tangled bonded us. Instead of packing and storing items in boxes, my second best friend and I geek out on stackable, matching containers for long-term storage. We love organization, so it was easy to let her help me around the house. Best friends know how to fold each other's towels. And best friends know where all your dishes go in your kitchen. Best friends are the family we choose. And both of my friends, also my sisters. And it is because of my husband that I didn't lose myself. When I got too upset or overwhelmed with the kids, he would tell me to go outside. Outside in my garden had become my safe space. The nickname Radagast had been used many times to describe my behavior. Children could find me in the basement or my room. I could hear them screaming my name no matter how many doors were locked between us. For my sanity, I needed to be away from the children for hours at a time. My garden was thriving, and I felt alive while I was playing in the dirt. We had now been in the neighborhood for about 10 years, and all the neighbors had seen me working outside. Our yard had become a destination spot for those in the neighborhood that enjoy nature. And my garden consists of over 265 genetically different types of plants, not including bushes, trees, or vines. Every possible moment that I can be outside, I am. I listen to Lin-Manuel Miranda music as I sing along tending to my flowers. And when my flowers don't need help, I decorate and add little details into the garden most people will never recognize or notice. My neighbors think I'm strange because I will ring their doorbell and ask if I can play in their dirt with different tasks. My garden becomes my way of expressing creativity and appreciation. When people on the sidewalk compliment my garden, I feel seen. I am making others happy while I am making myself happy. And massage clients started texting me more often to see if I was back to massage therapy yet. Having two young children made doing massage at our house, like before, impossible. A few clients were anxious for me to come back and they had missed me. With support and encouragement from my husband, I slowly began to travel to clients' houses to be a massage therapist again. Life was coming back to normal, and I was becoming myself again. And having people that knew me before I was a mother helped me not to lose myself. When I needed to vent about being a mother, my best friend from high school would support me. After 20 years of friendship, we had not lost each other. Random texts and rare visits are how adult friendships work. We live states apart, but our friendship is the strongest it's been since high school. And years ago, I had read a study that reported after marriage, the amount of times a couple says thank you is greatly reduced. And I refused for that to happen in my relationship or marriage. In my marriage and with my children, I say thank you for everything I can find a reason. My goal is to make those around me feel appreciated. I grew up feeling unseen. My children would not suffer the same way. Becoming a mother made me appreciate my mother on 1,000 new levels. I could not fathom having 3 children when I was 25 years old. I never needed Mother's Day to show my mom how much I loved and appreciated her. I had always made an extra effort to use my words to lift her up and encourage her when I could. And now I realize that on my birthday, I will call her and thank her for what she did. When my middle sister and I both had little babies under 1 year old, I searched for books about thank you. Instead of toys, my sister wanted books about manners, and unable to find a book I was satisfied with, I wrote my own. Using my love of science and nature, I wrote a book that I assumed would never get published. Using foam board and glue, I created a book for my niece. The last line in the book is, "Thank you for being you." Publishing a book is a long-term goal that I don't expect to go anywhere. I had fun creating it, so it was worth the effort. Multiple massage clients waited for me to return to massage therapy. One of my first regular clients was a teacher. While giving him a massage, he told me about a note he had received from a fellow teacher. The note thanked my teacher client for being so helpful and happy at school. Even though my client had begun to dislike teaching, his positive attitude inspired those around him on a daily basis. Without knowing it, his actions and attitude helped his fellow teachers have better days. My client's note story inspired me to write to those who had had positive influences in my life. While rewatching movies from my childhood with my children, names started showing up in patterns. As a child, the names on the colorful screen meant nothing. My children patiently wait until the end of all the names in case a short animation is at the end. As the names scroll, my children and I read the names and talk about what we see. When Jody Benson's voice, Alan Menken's name, Julie Andrews, and Lin-Manuel Miranda's name and voice were everywhere, I knew who I wanted to express my appreciation to the most. I didn't care if I got a response. I didn't even know if they would see my words, but I needed to try. Using the United States Post Office and fun stamps, I sent out my letters. After the letters were put into the mailbox, they were out of my thoughts. Like seeds in the wind, I let them go. Every day I dropped my son off at school, I noticed that the weeds in the parking lot nature areas were as tall as my son. The area had not been maintained in 10 years. There were broken branches and overgrown growths that I wanted to clean up. I wanted to play in the dirt at school while waiting for my son to be done. With permission from the principal, I was allowed to play in the dirt, and my children could find me in my garden now, but they could not find me there. I would put my tools in the trunk and drive to the school on weekends. The school grounds creeper told me I could make piles of growth that I cut and he would take it away. And I created pile after pile as I spent hours singing and playing in the dirt at my son's preschool. I already knew I loved nature, but my passion for biodiversity and reducing plastic pollution would give me a new purpose for writing. The principal included me on school activities like tree planting from the local arboretum. I was included in a meeting for redesigning the school park. With excitement, after the meeting, I went home and created a 9-page plan for the park with nature inspirations. I gave my plan to the principal and park designer, but heard no feedback. I didn't care if they read what I wrote. I had fun writing it. I had never lost my passion for writing, but my creativity with words was reinvigorated. I had an idea that would not leave my brain. With all the time I had been spending in nature and learning about how the world functions, I got frustrated with humans. The more I learned, the less I liked about how humans were treating the earth. The more I learned, the less hope I had for humanity's future. The world was dark and it felt like it was getting darker. I could either give in to the darkness and depression, or I could choose to be the light in the darkness. I decided that my idea was worth writing down and trying to explain, even if just to myself. After months of typing and organizing my plan, the idea opened like a book. It was like the words and ideas couldn't leave my fingertips fast enough. The national standard of waste ended up being a larger project than originally planned. What a small world that my recently new neighbor across the street was a patent lawyer. Being a writer had always been a dream, but I'd never thought I'd have a copyright and ideas in the Library of Congress. Without realizing it, I had become a part of history. Proud of my ideas, I printed them out and sent them to influential people and politicians. David Attenborough's love of biodiversity and Earth was infectious and captivating. I paid the extra postage for the chance that he might read my words. And when a letter with David Attenborough's return address arrived, I almost cried in joy. He had read my words and thought I was worthy enough to write back. I will cherish his letter forever. A massage client knew I loved listening to Book of Mormon and other soundtracks. She showed me the new musical, Hamilton. Broadway had become my musical love. It took me 30 years to fully realize that I love musical soundtracks above all other types of music. It took me 8 years of listening to Lin-Manuel Miranda's music for my husband to appreciate him as much as I do. My children listen to Hamilton and In the Heights on repeat The children listened to Hamilton and In the Heights on repeat while growing inside of me. My children do not have a memory of a day without hearing a Disney song, mostly Alan Menken, or Lin-Manuel Miranda's music. My family was late to watching Encanto and Vivo. I had so much appreciation and love for what Lin-Manuel Miranda had given my family. The emotional intelligence in Lin's songs and fun style of communication makes my family's life better. We sing and laugh together while cooking and in the car. Dance parties are every day and normal in our house. When Manuel Miranda wrote me back, I cried. Only Lin-Manuel Miranda's music and words can bring me to tears, and I will cherish the fact that he knows my name and honored me by writing back. His music and words have inspired me to my core. The world will never be the same, and I am the only one I can control. I am planting seeds in gardens I'll never get to see. When Stephen Colbert came to Chicago, I reserved tickets as soon as I could. Together, my husband and I would watch Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert back to back. Comedy is medicine. When it was hard to find happiness, I watched Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers to find reasons to laugh. I missed Seth Meyers in Chicago because I was unwilling to pay the price and stay up too late. I was not going to make that mistake again. Stephen's tickets were free, but I was going to have to stay up past my 8 p.m. bedtime. My kindergarten best friend and I decided what to wear and got our train tickets ready to go. It was going to be a long day and late night, but I was vibrating with excitement. I was wearing my elf ears and wanted to get noticed. Our plan was to go early and get a spot early in line. I wanted to be seen and ask Stephen Colbert a question from the audience. When only one audience member got picked, a few rows in front of me, I was crushed. Our seats were on the second balcony, so I knew I would not be seen. Elf ears or not, I was just another one of 4,000 people. I felt like a grain of sand on a beach that didn't matter. And I'm comfortable with that on a cosmic scale, that that I am insignificant. But I didn't like being just a face in the crowd. I wanted to be the sun shining through the clouds. Mm. Being disappointed, drinking wine, and being out late is not a good combo. After 9 p.m., I wilted like a flower. After 11 p.m., I wept like a willow. I was not a good audience member as I tried to hold back my tears of disappointment, but knowing I expected too much from the experience. It was my own fault that I had preconceptions of a movie moment ending with Stephen Colbert acknowledging me. Every morning before children, I would wake up, make coffee, and watch my morning comedy clips. Starting my day with laughter is medicine. My morning routine had not changed since high school time. Time in the morning to mentally prepare for the day helps me be less overwhelmed. No matter what my schedule looks like, every morning I sit at my vanity and I apply makeup. When I didn't have a vanity, I used the second bathroom. And within months of purchasing our home, there was an estate sale in the neighborhood, and we found a beautiful, real wooden vanity with a tall mirror. As I shined with joy, my boyfriend paid for and helped me carry the vanity a few blocks home. I don't care if I'm going to see anyone else in the day. I always put makeup on my face. If I don't like what I see in the mirror, my mental state suffers. I put makeup on for myself, no one else. And once my makeup and hair is done, I can start my day. Nothing gets done if I'm wearing my glasses when I had them, or not wearing a bra. I couldn't control the world, but I can control myself. Or I can't control the world, but I can control how I present myself to the world. Not having my morning routine after children took a piece of joy away from my life. Having my comedy on while the kids could listen felt inappropriate, so I was reduced to listening to my comedy clips from my phone during stolen moments for myself. And I understand why fathers take so long to poop now. Having a lock on my bathroom door has saved my sanity. It was not uncommon for me to hide from my children to enjoy a few precious moments alone. And after traveling with me, my boyfriend still wanted to marry me. Traveling had never been easy for me. Traveling with a child was something I had avoided. Airports were not places I wanted to be with or without a child, and it's easy for me to get overwhelmed with all the stimulation and other humans in such large facilities. Without my husband, I fear I would get lost and follow the wrong directions. Humanity is horrible, so I only assume horrible things would happen to me, a woman, alone. The only difference now, well, since Mexico, was that I had the funds to pay my way home. I have a safety net provided by my husband. Our first family vacation as a family was to see my middle sister in Florida. Traveling with two large car seats and overpacked bags is not a good combination. After 3 nights, the adults are ready to go home, and after driving long hours, sitting on the long plane ride, and not having a regular routine for days, the whole family came home grumpy. When my second best friend was getting married, my children were old enough to be a part of the wedding party. Being in the wedding party itself, it was up to my husband to take the kids during the wedding weekend. The drive up was fun. Together, we listened to my husband's Finnish heavy metal music and the Bluey soundtrack. We sang Disney and enjoyed searching for state license plates. Technology is not offered in the car to my children. It is impossible to look for hawks and bird nests if you're looking down. In the car, it is a great place to use creativity and talk. At the house, I'm distracted with my own projects. And in the car, the kids have my attention. But having my attention is bittersweet, as we would find out on the way home. But knowing the weather was going to be cold and rainy, I brought all the supplies we needed. Our trunk was packed to the max because I wanted to be prepared, and I had so much to bring for getting ready. The amount of stuff we had to bring in and out of the car and into the hotel room was overwhelming. Instead of the young children being helpful, they were ready to run up and down the halls, being loud. Children being children annoyed and frustrated me. I was frustrated with myself because I remember being the excited child in the new hotel. We were on an adventure. They had energy to burn, but I did not. Staying home in the car gets difficult when neither child will stop talking or bothering each other. The less they listen to my simple instructions, the more frustrated I become. With my husband for stability, we make it to dinner. Our son experiences his first brain freeze from drinking a large glass of cold milk too quickly. I notice immediately that he was embarrassed and trying not to cry. His head hurt so badly, we decided to go back to the hotel room and go to sleep early. Sleep is impossible in the hotel. Even with my pillow from home, finding a comfortable position is difficult with a child next to you. After a battle of musical beds, the sleeping arrangement finally sticks. A smaller bed and not my husband next to me is not my routine. Without our bedtime routine and regular habits, my anxiety skyrockets. Living out of suitcases and not being able to find my things for myself in mornings is hard enough. As a mom, I am the one who knows where everything everyone needs is packed. When everyone's stuff is all over the floor and all unorganized, I have anxiety. Because of my husband, the wedding day was great. He got the kids where they needed to be and dressed on time. Their emotions were on roller coasters without our regular routine, too. I was not the only one overwhelmed with all the changes and different people surrounding us. I was not the only one suffering from lack of sleep. And our second night was worse than the first. Having already been on the edge of sickness, our daughter was now officially sick. Because of the rain and cold weather before the outdoor ceremony, our son is getting sick. My husband didn't drink the night before, but he woke up with a headache anyway. And mornings were not my strong suit, but I had to be the adult because my husband was unable to. We are a partnership, so when the other is sick, taking care of children solo is required. At breakfast, I could not stop my eyes from leaking. I was so tired and emotionally empty, a stranger helped make my breakfast. I made sure my children got their food and went upstairs to start packing. By the time we said goodbye to the wedding party and got home, I hated my children. We had spent too much time together. I could not provide as a mother what they needed during those times. And it took me a month to want to spend time with them again. And I continued to take care of them and show them I loved them, but I didn't like them. Did not like being their mother and the demands they placed on me. I didn't like how our emotions were connected, and I didn't like how much they needed me and made me feel trapped. My father decided he wanted a large family vacation. His plan was to include his 3 daughters' families and his wife's 2 daughters' families. When the date and location of the trip was announced, I could not stop crying. Thinking about being in the same room as him for multiple nights was not possible without crying. Thinking about being in a contained space with that many people and children overwhelmed me. Both of my sisters were able to agree to the trip without severe emotional reactions, and I was the only family member not to bring their family on the trip. I trusted my instincts and I decided against a family vacation with my father. So finding friends for your children that are also friends for the parents is like dating all over again. It's a dance around the other person to investigate if they are someone you want to share time with. It's a dance to find out the other parent's values and opinions before you trust them to care for your child on a play date. There are communication struggles and expectations from other sides that aren't always clear. Being friends as an adult with friends I've had all my life is difficult. Being friends with new people for the sake of my child is stressful. I barely like my own children sometimes, so I rarely like my friends' children or my children's friends. I knew going into motherhood that birthday parties were going to be inevitable. Lots of children and lots of noise for a few hours. With enough mental preparation, I can go to a few events. In the situations that I would struggle with, my husband gladly takes the children. Being active with both children does not overwhelm my husband like it does for me. Being at home, I feel relaxed and at ease. At events like parades or arcades, there are too many people and too much stimulation for me. I feel on high alert when it's just me if I'm there with children. Or I feel on high alert when it's just me. But if I'm there with children, I get anxious and protective. I'm always expecting something to go wrong and ruin my life. I still hold the fear that my life can fall apart and I'll be back to where I started as a child. Anger and annoyance are usually the emotions I feel towards children, and I battle with myself every day and hide my frustrations. I never wanted my children to think that I didn't love them because of my own frustrations. It's not their fault, they are kids. It's not their fault that I agreed to this responsibility, and it's not their fault their brain can't comprehend something. They did not choose to be born. And it's impossible for a parent not to love their child. As a child, they would not understand that I loved them, but I didn't love being a mother. It is impossible to hide who you really are and how you feel from your child. My children understand that I never planned to have kids. My children understand that I need alone time and that being in social groups is difficult for me. I've communicated my faults to my children to help them understand that when I'm upset, it's not their fault. I communicate to my children that I love them and that I am proud of them any chance I can. Because children are born as a blank slate, needing to be filled with knowledge and information. On the other hand, all humans are born with emotions. All humans feel the same intensity and range of emotions. Children do not need adults to explain when they are angry. What children need is adults to teach them the words to match the emotion. Children need guidance from healthy adults on how to make correct decisions. Because if an adult does not know how to address their own emotions or make good decisions, then it is impossible for the adult to teach the child. So if a society is filled with adults that struggle to function properly, every child will suffer. The cycle of dysfunction will continue and worsen until someone decides to break the cycle. Every human has strengths and weaknesses. Every parent passes down a portion of not only their genetics, but personal traits and emotional baggage. Children mimic what they see. Any weaknesses the parents have, children will magnify the personality flaw and then rub it in the parent's face. Parents and children alike can grow together when faced in this circumstance. Instead of denying what is happening, a parent must become vulnerable to the hard truth the child has made clear. Children make adults better humans, but it is the adult's responsibility to recognize the learning and growth opportunities. I knew my husband would be an amazing father. I could not deny him the experience of being a father. But a good father was a strange idea to me. My husband is very receptive to my emotional needs and my emotional trauma. When my kids scream while playing, there's an alarm that goes off in my head. I know that my husband is playing with the children and he would never hurt them. My emotional brain does not understand. When I hear my child cry out while playing rough with their father emotionally, I become the little girl trying to escape her father on the stairs. I know the situation is different, but the emotions flood back with certain triggers. When my children refused to go on the school bus or to go to school, my husband has to take the lead. My husband can be emotionally stronger in convincing our child to go to school. Because of my past, my emotions get torn in two, so I start crying. Post-traumatic stress events related to my previously unstable life still happen daily. Every year that passes is one more year that I heal from my past, but emotional trauma can last a lifetime. Our home is our safe place when the world feels out of control. The ecosystems I have created surrounding our house can have a rippling effect in my neighborhood and city. My actions today influence my ancestors in the future. My voice is small, but my words are strong. The way I live my life is an example for my children. If I tell my children that they are important, even though they are small, I need to believe it. When I feel small as an adult, I remember what I tell my children for encouragement. When so much is going wrong, I am the only one I can control. When my children feel powerless, I can empower them. Little choices like choosing what to wear or what color cup to use helps them discover their personality. Little decisions make them happy. Larger decisions make children feel appreciated and understood. Listening is different than hearing. My father listened, but he didn't hear me. My words did not change his attitude or views towards the situation. Listening to what a child has to say is challenging. Figuring out the words can be a puzzle in itself. Deciphering what the child means with their limited vocabulary can be frustrating for everyone involved. But babies do not use words, but they can communicate. Usually, parents are able to communicate with their own children because they are familiar with how the child's language is developing. Parents know the strengths and weaknesses of their children if the parents are paying attention. I'm paying attention to my kids in a way my mother did not have the luxury. I may not like being a mother, but I am doing the best I can. Just because I don't like a job doesn't mean I can't do it well. I won't let the world vilify me because I don't follow their expectations of what I should be. I know what my kids need, so I provide it the best I can. I make sure to enjoy the good moments and remember that I'm never going backwards. Our school district is phenomenal. My children will be lucky enough to go to one school district their whole lives. We had no plans to leave our home unless something drastic changes. My husband has provided so much security that even if he dies before me, our family will be able to stay in our home. And realizing that our house would be a generational home was strange. We were staying forever. I was providing a stability I never dreamed of. I have given my children a better start to life than I had. For the first time in my life, I have a future I can plan for. I know what my address is going to be for the rest of my life. I have never known such a comforting thought. My children will grow up in one house. My grandchildren will visit our house and play under the vines I've planted. I will watch the trees grow and get big enough for my grandchildren to climb. Learning how to help me in the garden and care for my earth is a skill I will teach anyone who is willing to listen. My grandchildren will care for the flowers I've planted if I can inspire enough love. Each seed that is created in my garden is hope for the future. My home and my garden are my legacy. I won't say my children are my legacy. They will grow to be their own legacy. If I do my job correctly as a mother, my children will be ready and have the tools they need to leave our home. Moving out will be a celebration of growing up and being independent. My children will grow into adults that are kind and capable of making their own decisions. But my children will always have the safety net that I never had. Thank you.